Please, if you're new to this channel, do well to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you get notified on my new videos every week on tips, tricks, techniques, and effective methods and productivity tools you can use while studying as a student every week. So please just hit the notification bell, like and subscribe. Okay, welcome back. In this video, this is another episode and we're going to be talking about the active recall method. And I know most of you have heard about it. Most students have actually heard about this method, and actually most students haven't heard about it, and they kind of ignore it and they feel like it's kind of not really important to them. But I'm going to be telling you in this video that the active recall method is actually very, very important. And you need it. Yeah, you need it. It's a very, very important method that every student needs it. And first of all, I'm going to be diving into this. As I'm going to dive in, I'm going to talk about the active recall method. I'm going to give you a brief definition or meaning of active recall and some scientific research backing up this active recall method as a study technique, because most people actually feel like all these study techniques are not actually backed up by some scientific kind of research. But yeah, it's backed up. Yeah, it's backed up. Okay, let's dive in. Actually, the active recall is a technique that allows your brain to retrieve information, right? That allows your brain to retrieve information that you actually took in or you actually read. It's like kind of bringing it out. So, and this is where your brain actually kind of do more work. Yeah, this is where your brain does more kind of work, because you're stretching your brain, man. Like, you're trying to make use of your brain because you're trying to retrieve the information you just read without actually looking at the material. Without looking at the material, trying to retrieve this information from your head. Now, this active recall method is not something that just came out. It must have a root, and this active recall method was rooted from a cognitive psychology. It was rooted from a cognitive psychology, which is what they call, it is the testing effect. The cognitive psychology is actually a testing effect, and which was actually backed up by some scientists, and these scientists were Radigo and Jeffrey Packik. Actually, this study technique, these scientists actually made some research about the study technique, because they found out that most students who actually read and tried to retrieve information find it easier to remember them later, because their brain have found this information to be helpful and useful. But students who actually who ignores it and kind of read their notes always, they didn't actually perform well based on the analysis made by these scientists. And this is what brings us to actually how we can actually use the active recall method as a study technique. Like I said, it's a kind of study techniques rooted from what a cognitive psychology, which is called the testing effect. And this is basically where you need to know how to use the active recall method, because, like I said, active recall method is basically trying to retrieve information. You're trying to retrieve information, you're kind of looking at the material, and you're trying to be confident of yourself and what you just read. And being confident of yourself is like you have authority over what you are doing. You don't need to look at any material or any book, and by the time you get into the exam hall, you feel like a boss. I know that's what almost every student need to know. That's what every student they wish for, or they want, and that is why you have to actually work towards it. And you need to feel like a boss when you get into the exam hall, and you also need to feel like a boss in the process of the study of the material. And you also need to make your brain feel like a boss, and that is why I brought this method, and that is why in this video I'm talking about this active recall method. Okay, now how do you use the active recall method? This is basically a practical method you use while studying. Now you study, you cover your notes or the material, then you try to retrieve every single thing. You try to bring out every single thing out of your head without looking at anything. Now you're making use of your brain. You understand? You're making use of your brain. You're sending a signal to your brain that that information that you're trying to kind of retrieve is very, very important, because you will need it later on. And also, you're sending a signal to your brain that you need later. You need it to be stored in your long-term memory. You will need it for exams, So that is what you basically do. And that is the instruction, actually. You basically send to your brain while you do the active recall method. And I know most students actually, they know this. No, listen, don't be ignorant about it. Don't be ignorant. Most students actually knows the active recall method, but kind of ignore it because they feel like it's kind of not important, and they feel like it wastes their time because they feel like they just need to read it over and over again, which is not really smart. No, not really smart though, I'll tell you the truth. But I need you to know that the active recall method is something you need to start doing it. If you haven't started doing it and you're watching this video, please, you need to start doing it. You have heard of active recall method, or you already know it and you're not doing it. Please do it, because this has been backed up scientifically and by some scientific researchers, like I mentioned earlier. And this is something that you don't need to kind of waver about. You need to please know that the active recall method is a very, very effective method, because when you check in on information newly, it's kind of quite fresh, right? Yeah, just like maybe when you're cooking something fresh or something like that. Okay, let's get back. Like I said, you take in an information newly, that information is very, very fresh, and you want to treat it like something fresh, right? How do you treat the information like something fresh? You get whatever information or stuff, idea you got, or something you read from the book. So it's fresh, right? How do you treat it fresh? You don't. Now listen. Let's get something straight. You get an information. You read it once. That is, you're treating it fresh. Reading it again, you're not going to treat it fresh again anymore. And this is not what we're talking about. Now, you're trying to treat the information fresh. Send a signal to your brain that I have to know this information, right? Knowing this at this first point of reading this information, I have to know it. That is what you're sending to your brain. And searching it fresh, you read it once, you close your book, try to retrieve it again, try to explain every single thing, try to make summaries of what you've read. And with this, you're kind of bringing a stronger connections in your brain. You understand? You're trying to create stronger connections in your brain, kind of where your brain more stronger. And this is very, very important, because it helps you to store kind of information in your long-term memory. And it helps you store information in your long-term memory. And some time ago, some kind of research were made, and they tested some group of students, and they kind of discovered that those students who studied for kind of tested themselves, they made active recall. Some students made their active recall, while some students kind of read their notes over and over again. Now, something happened. Those students who actually tested themselves, they did active recall, came out the best when they conducted the exams. Now, what does this simply mean? That the active recall is not just also helping kind of stronger connections in our brain, it also kind of help us know the areas in which we're actually good at and which the areas in which we are not good at. And this is where it brings us to priorities. Setting a high priority, low priority, and medium priority. Now, this is what most students basically do. And you can only know this if you actually doing the active recall. If you're not doing the active recall, and you will not really know about the priority stuff like that. But if you're doing the active recall, you know the area that, oh, this is quite important. So, and this is what I need to know. Oh, I could not remember this. This is what I need to know. And you're going to get back to your material and get back to know those areas you fell off, and those areas you did not know. And this kind of makes those information stick to your head. And when you get into the exam hall, you feel like a boss, because you have actually done your own work, right? Yeah, you have actually done your own work while you were on your own, and you're not kind of feeling like every single question you're sending in the examination, because in the examination they're going to look new to you, because this is what you have kind of worked on. You have worked on it. You have known those areas in which you aren't good at and those areas in which you're good at. And I urge you that during examination preparations like this, making use of active recall methods and other techniques, you don't kind of focus on things you know. You actually focus on things you don't know. And how do you know that you know such information and you don't know it? Through the active recall method, because it's when you're trying to retrieve the information, by then stressing yourself, sometimes you feel stuck. Oh, I can't remember this. Now you have known that that thing you can't remember is what you actually need to tackle, and those things you remembered are things that actually has gotten to your head or has gotten to your memory as easy as that, and which has created a sense of awareness in you that you have actually known the important areas you need to actually focus on, because you don't need to kind of waste your time, because we're dealing with time here. Exam is kind of closer and you don't need to kind of focus on things you already know. You focus on things you don't know, and this is why the active recall is quite very, very important, because like I mentioned earlier, the scientists who made this research, Rodrigo and Japek, actually made this research on they said it's a kind of cognitive psychology, which is called the testing effect. Like I said, you test yourself. That's basically what active recall is talking about. You actually test yourself. It's a testing effect, and knowing the areas you're good at and areas you're not good at. And most students actually do this by taking it to presenting it to the kind of color. When they test themselves, they know those things they can't remember. Those things they actually can't remember, they take it with a red color. Those things they kind of be remember, stuff like that. They kind of put it in a maybe yellow or orange. Then those things they are very, very good at, they kind of put it in green. That's good for them. So this is what I urge you to do right now. You're watching this video, please. The active recall method is a very, very good method, and you can use. And this is where it brings us to the use of flashcards. You know, those days we make use of flashcards with the kind of paper card stuff. You write at the back, you write something at the front of the card. Then, example, now you write like, what is the name of, or kind of what is the capital city of, just kind of stuff like that. You kind of write the question at the front, then you write the answer at the back, then kind of you come to it. Now you look at it, you're like, okay, what is this stuff like? Let me remember stuff like that. I can't remember. Then you kind of turn it, okay, this brings us the flashcards. But this is there's an app that is very, very good for flashcards, and most of you don't know, most of you know it. And this is where it brings us to the Anki. Anki is a very good flashcards app, and it helps you to, it's actually, Anki does the work for you. Now in Anki application, you see where they wrote you see where they kind of see different colors like green, red, I think green, red, and one other color like that. So if you kind of remember it's green, it's a green for you, and it's going to come back in the next 3 days. If you can't remember it's a red, and it's going to come back in the next 3 minutes while you're studying that card. It's going to come back in the next 3 minutes, which means you're trying to, like Anki has done more of the work. You understand? Anki has done more of the work in active recall, trying to remember this thing, and Anki is very, very good for studying kind of flashcard and stuff like that. But I think this is all for this video, and I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you kind of got a lot of value from this video. And basically, using the active recall method is not hard, it's not something stressful. It is just a very sweet method, and it kind of creates connections in your brain. You understand? Creates connections and stuff like that, make you store information in long-term memory. And please do well to hit the subscribe button. If you're just watching, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do well to hit the subscribe button and support with a thumbs up, so YouTube is gonna know that you're gonna take it far, and gonna find it useful, stuff like that. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for making out your time to watch this video. As a student, you need to do it very well. And thank you. See you in my next video.